Hello and welcome to Pixel Magic Tutorials. I am your host Geekman, and today I'm going to teach you how to create gold text in Photoshop, fully editable gold text in Photoshop. Now, before I begin, there's a couple of assumptions that I'm making right off the bat. The first one being that you are using Windows. If you're using a Mac, then when I say hit the Control key on your keyboard, that means hit the Command key. And when I say hit the Alt key on your keyboard, that means hit the Option key on a Mac keyboard. The other assumption that I'm making is that you're using Photoshop CC 2015 or later. If you're using an earlier version of Photoshop, some of the effects may not work as expected. Lastly, a new little bit of information. This is a slightly more advanced version of a gold text effect, because you're going to need to be able to go into your contours and change the actual values within them on their little sine wave graph. Don't worry about it too much. It's very easy to do, and I'll be able to walk you through it very easily. So without further ado, let's get started. The first thing that we need to do is create a new image for us to work with. So let's hit Control N on our keyboard to bring up the new image dialog box, and we will name this gold text because that's what we're making. And as always, I'm using a width of 3840 pixels and a height of 2160 pixels. Resolution is 150 pixels an inch. RGB color 8-bit. The background never really matters. I'm going to start with black, but start with whatever because we'll be changing it right away. The color profile, I always use Adobe RGB 1998 and square pixels. So let's get started by hitting OK. And now we've got our background to work with. Now, the very first thing that we're going to do is we're going to change our foreground color to a nice rich blue. So let's click on our foreground color, and then let's go down here and change it to a nice rich blue. Now, I'm using blue because I think it looks the best with gold text on top, but you can use any color that you want. And we're going to go with 1238B5. And that's going to be the color that we use, a nice rich blue. Hit OK, and then we're going to fill this layer, this background layer, with our color by hitting ALT+Backspace, and we now have blue. Hurrah! So the next thing that you do is we're going to go up to Filter and Filter Gallery, and then we're going to go to Texture here on the bottom, Texture, and we're going to go to Texturizer, this one down here. And over here in the options, we're going to make it Sandstone. We're going to do the scaling all the way up to 200%. The relief, we want to be about 7. You can go a little higher if you want more of a relief by moving this, or you can go lower. I'm to like 7. Gives you just enough to be noticeable, but not so much that it takes away from the actual text we'll be putting on. The light that we have here, you can do any one that you want. You can go from the bottom, you can go from the top right, or anything like that. I'm just going to go straight from the top for no reason whatsoever. I just happen to like coming from the top there. Invert, leave unchecked. If you turn that on, it basically inverts it. It doesn't really do much when you're working with this at this point. So let's just hit OK, and we have now our texture on our background. Then we are going to unlock and rename the background layer just so that we can always change it later, and we'll just name it BKGD for background. It doesn't make a difference. There it is. Now we're going to create a new layer on top. It's going to be a new adjustment layer. It's going to be a curves adjustment layer. And just as always, we're going to lower this square. We're going to grab the square up here on the top upper right and bring it down to this first line on the bottom. And that's going to darken the entire image. Then we're going to go to our masks up here, and we're going to put this up to 175 pixels. And then we're basically done with that, except here we are now on the mask, and we're going to go to our elliptical marquee tool. You can go there by hitting the M on your keyboard or by clicking on it and going to elliptical marquee tool. Making sure that it's at feather 0. We're using a standard marquee, anti-alias, normal. And then we're going to make a nice big ellipse. Then we're going to grab the ellipse, move it to the center, and center. You'll see these lines show up, let go. And then we're going to fill that with white by hitting Alt and Backspace. Oh, I'm sorry, by hitting Control and Backspace. whichever one is white. It could be the forward or the backward. So we'll just leave that there. And now we have a nice vignette. We can deselect now, Control D for deselect, and let's rename this from curves to vignette. And now we have our background all set and ready for our text. And the first thing that we're going to do is choose our font. So we're going to hit T on our keyboard to bring up our text tool, and then we're going to open up our character, and we're going to choose a font. Now I am using a font called Cardo Bold actually, and I have a link below in the description on where you can download this font to use this font. But you can use almost any font that you'd like for this effect. They all work equally well. Now let's make the font roughly 200 points inside. So let's just go to 200 here. Everything else, let's leave auto, the kerning between, let's leave it 0 for now, 100%, 100%. And the color, we can leave it as white. We're going to be changing it soon anyway. So let's click, and we will write our text. Pixel Magic, in my case. You can write whatever you'd like. Then let's move it to the center of our document, and it will snap into place like so. And this, as always, is your best chance to align the kerning, which is basically the spacing between the letters, so that it will look the way you want when finished. So go back to your text tool by hitting T, and then click in between the letters. And you see how there is so much space between the A and the G, but not much space between the M and the A? We want to fix that. So we're going to put the cursor in between the M and the A. We're going to hold down the Alt key on our keyboard, and using the left and right arrow keys on our keyboard, we can then make the kerning bigger and smaller. So I'm going to make that a little bigger. I'm going to make this a little bit smaller, smaller here, smaller there, not that small. That looks good. Give a little bit more space here with the E. The I looks good. Let's bring this P in, and we now have our text ready to go. Okay, so the whole effect here is done with layer styles. All right, and it's a lot of layer styles. And as I mentioned at the beginning of the video, the main hard part here, and it's really not that difficult once you understand what's going on, is you have to change the contour of the bevel and emboss that we're going to put on here, so that the contour itself will be kind of a spike, then going back down and then up again to kind of a rounded corner. Now I'll show you exactly what I mean as we get to it, but just know that you can actually affect this and it won't damage anything. You can play with the contours anywhere, whether it be as we did here in our vignette. This is the contour map, and you can change this by, doing this. That's all you have to do. And you can't mess anything up. You can just, get rid of it and start over again. It's not going to hurt you. So what we're going to do here is on our Pixel Magic layer, we're going to put on a new layer style, starting with Bevel and Emboss. Now the Bevel and Emboss that I have here, you can see what I did already. This is a custom contour that I made, a little spike, and then going down to a curve, and then up to the top. Now I'll show you exactly how I did that, and I'm going to reset this so that you can see how I did it. All right, so the first thing is it's going to be an inner bevel style. We're going to make it chisel hard, because we want it to be chisel hard. The depth we want to be 100. The direction is going to be up. Our size, however, is going to be all the way up at 250, and soften is going to be 0. We're going to turn off Use Global Light, and we're going to make the angle a lot harsher. We're going to go 135 by 60. Okay? And then we're going to get to our gloss contour. Sorry. Now you click directly on it like I just did. Just click directly on it, and it'll bring up this linear map. Now what you want to do is you want to change this. Now the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to bring in the bottom slightly to about 10. We're going to bring the top in to about 90. And that is going to give us the beginning of what we're looking for. Then we're going to add another control by just clicking on the line and bringing that up. Then we're going to add another one that brings it all the way down. And we're going to change this by left clicking, I think. Oh no, we're going to turn that into a corner by hitting corner. See, and now you've got a spike. We're going to bring this in over here and bring this over here. And you've got everything that you need here. We'll leave this at 90. And there. My original one, I had more than these two in here. But really, that's all that you need. You need one at the bottom. And we can bring this up to make it a little harsher. I think that looks good. So you got a corner one up here by clicking on corner, and that's at about 35 and output at 89. And down here you've got one that's a regular curve, and that's at 62 and 15. And these numbers may not mean anything to you, but they're the input and output numbers here. And really, that's all that you need to do. It's very simple to do. You don't have to be scared of changing the mapping contours in anything that you do in Photoshop. They're just hard to understand if you don't see what it actually is doing, because this spike gives us this line, and the curve gives us the shadow and the light side on either side. So let's just hit OK. And now we have our custom gloss contour. Now, anti-alias, we want to leave here as unchecked. Actually, we want to check it because we want it to be slightly smoother and nicer. It won't make that big of a difference, but it's enough that it's okay. Blend, the highlight mode, we want to make, let's see, let's leave it as screen. And the color that we want here is going to be F4 D6 49. Okay, that's going to give us a nice little golden color. Hit OK. And then for our shadow, we're going to want that to be linear burn right here, leaving that as zeros, which is all black, and the opacity for both of these should be at 60%. So let's make them both 60%. Okay, so that's good there. Then we want to go here to contour, and we want that to be Sawtooth 1. Now, Sawtooth 1 is, I think, this guy right here. Is that Sawtooth? No, that's Ring. That's Sawtooth. That is Sawtooth 1. Okay, let's see. Sawtooth 1. Yay, I win. Anti-alias is checked. Range is 100. That's all good. Next up, we want to do an inner shadow. That's going to give us a little bit more of a deeper shadow. And we're going to want that to be multiply. The color is going to be all zeros, so it's black. Opacity is going to be 30%. Our angle is going to be -45 with use global light unchecked as always. Distance is going to be 3. Choke is going to be 0. Size is going to be 4. The contour is going to be linear. The anti-alias is going to be unchecked. Distance and noise is going to be 0. I'm sorry. Then we're going to go to inner glow. Turn that guy on, and we're going to give it a little golden inner glow by using blend mode of vivid light. We're going to use opacity of 30%, noise of 0. The color that we're using here is going to be F5DA66, which is another golden color. Our technique is going to be softer. Source is going to be edge, not center, but edge. We're going to use choke of 0 and size of 4. Our contour is going to be linear, anti-alias is unchecked, range is 50, jitter is 0. Next up is going to be satin. We're going to make a satin look, and we're going to use hard light for the blend mode, and our color is going to be 746B1A. Okay, and our opacity is going to be 60%. Our angle will be 135 degrees. Our distance is going to be 29. Our size is 9. Our contour is going to be this half round over here, half round, and we're going to make it anti-aliased, and invert is going to be checked. Then we will do a gradient overlay, and this is going to replace our color. Okay, and we're going to use a golden overlay. It's going to be a blend mode of normal. That's going to keep it from just affecting the color underneath, which in my case was white, and it's just going to replace that color. So we're going to make it normal. Dither is going to be let's uncheck that. Let's leave that unchecked. Opacity is going to be 100%. Gradient is going to be a custom gradient. So let's look at what we've got here. We have here a custom gradient of gold to light gold to gold. So the color that we're using at location 0 is going to be DF9D2E. Location, of course, is going to be at 0, way over here. See location 0. Then we're going to create a new color marker right here at the 50%, and we're going to give that color F5DBA6. That's going to give us our center color. And then over here, all the way on the right-hand side, is going to be a duplicate of the left-hand side. So at 100%, we're going to use the exact same color of DF9D2E. Now, the only thing that's a little different, you may have noticed, is if I click here on the center one, you'll see that the midpoints are much closer to the center than they are to the left and the right. And that's important. So by clicking on it, which would be at the 50%, we are going to change it to 70%. Okay, so that's that one. Then you can click back on the center and click on the right-hand midpoint and change that location to 30%. And that's going to give us a tighter gradient. So it goes from gold and then slowly changes to the lighter gold, and then will quickly change back into the deeper gold as it goes. So the bright part is only basically in the center and isn't spread out too much. Let's hit OK. And then we're going to make sure that reverse is unchecked. The style is going to be linear. Align with layer is checked. And the angle is slightly off from 90 degrees. It's going to be at 88 degrees. And the scale is going to be 100%. The last thing that we're going to do is we're going to give this a little drop shadow. So we're going to make that blend mode of multiply. Color is going to be black, which is 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0. Opacity, we're going to make only 50%. Use global light is not checked. Angle of 135. Distance is going to be 12, spread 0, size 9, and the contour is going to be linear. We don't have to mess with that. And anti-alias is checked, noise is 0, layer knocks out drop shadow is checked. Now that gives us a little tiny drop shadow. Now if you happen to want it to be a little bigger, you can of course just make it larger like that, like 25, and then make this slightly larger by making it say 15. Let's just make that 15. So if you wanted it to be that big, you can. I'm not too thrilled with it. It looks too far away and not 3D enough. So I'm just going to leave this as it was, which is 12 and 9. Okay, the contour and everything I already told you. But if you happen to want it to stand out more from the background, very easy to do with the drop shadow. So we're done. And now you've got your editable, wow, my mouth is not working so great today. Editable gold text. Now it needs a little bit more than just this. I happen to think that it needs to have a little bit more shine and glint to it. So that's what we're going to do next. So let's hide all the effects by clicking on the little arrow on the layer. And let's create a new layer above this. And we will name that layer Inner Shine. And we are going to change its mode to Hard Mix, which is right down here underneath the overlay section. All right, so now we've got a hard mix here. And what we are going to do is we are going to now press Control on our keyboard, and then click on the text layer itself right here. See, it turns into the little dotted marching ants there. If I go off of it, you miss it. If I go onto the T, you can see it. Holding down the Control key, click on that, and it will make a selection of your text. Once you have that selection, go down to the bottom of your layers palette, and you're going to create a layer mask of that selection by clicking on Add Layer Mask. And as you can see, you now have a mask where the white part is just the letters, and black, which means you don't see anything, is all around the letters. So that's going to be important. Now make sure that you click back onto the thumbnail of the layer and not the layer mask, because you don't want to work on the layer mask. You want to work on the layer itself. And then we're going to switch our foreground and background back to default black and white by hitting D on our keyboard. And we want white to be the foreground color, so hit X on your keyboard to make white the foreground color. And now you're going to be a little bit more artistic on your own. You're going to get to your brush, and you're going to choose the standard soft edge brush. That's all you need to do, is a standard soft edge brush. Now I can go here and show you on my brush palette that I am now using a standard soft edge brush. Nothing selected on my brush tip shape or these brush preset effects. It's just smoothing, and that's it. And then you're going to make this roughly, let's say, 150 is fine. And on the layer that you've named Inner Shine, you're then going to carefully click in places on the letters to give it kind of a shine every now and again. And like I said, this comes down to using your eyes to figure out where you like the shine to be, keeping in mind that we are going to add in a little bit of glint and shine using our star brushes in just a moment. So think about where you want those shines to be and add a little bit of this glint and shine to it. This is your inner shine to make things look a little bit more golden, as if there is light reflecting and refracting off of it. Let's go down there. And there you go. Now we've got our inner shine. And if you don't like how deep it is, you can always go to opacity and make it a little less or a little more. I happen to like it like full on brightness, so I'm leaving it at 100, but you can change that if you so wish. Now above inner shine, we're going to create a brand new layer, and we're going to name this, let's name this Shiny Bling. Why not? I like shiny bling. Everybody likes shiny bling. And then using our brush tool and our star brushes, which actually, let me show you here because it's bigger. I have all of these star brushes. Now, if you don't have star brushes, I have a video linked below that teaches you how to create your own custom star brushes. Or if you do a search online for custom star brushes in Photoshop, there are literally hundreds of custom sets that you can download for free and use. Now, I am going to use the ones that I created right here. So let's start with this guy. And we're going to make it small. You want it to be around between 75 and 150-ish. I'll start with 100. And then find a place where you think a glint or glow should be, like let's say right here on the eye, and bang. I've got a little bit of a glint on my eye, and I'll put one down here in the P, and then I'll pick a different brush, and I'll make it nice and small. Let's say, let's make this one 150. Yeah, that looks good. And we'll put that up here on the E, and we'll put it down here over here. I try not to use more than, I try not to use any brush when I'm doing these glints more than twice, because you use it more than twice and people tend to see that you're using the same brush, and then they don't like the effect anymore. But if you only use it once or twice, just a little, people don't see it. They just see glints and glows, and they don't really notice that it's the same glint and glow in different spots. So I've got plenty of brushes that I created, and I teach you how to do those. So feel free to use as many of them or as few of them as you want. You don't have to use this to make your stuff look like mine. You can just leave it as is. But I happen to think that adding on a little bit more glint and glow gives it some more nice eye candy, and makes people a little bit happier when they look at it. So there we go there, and let's just do one more. I've got all the letters have a little bit of a glint on it, and there. We'll just put this guy right there. And that's it. You now have fully editable golden text. Now the shine, the inner shine, and the shiny bling are not editable. You'll have to recreate them if you change the text. But if you go here to text and we wanted to add in some text, we could tutorials, just like that. And you have fully editable text. Now I can turn this stuff back on, and you'll see the difference between having on the extra magic of the inner shine and the shiny bling, how that makes this look more golden than the tutorials. Pixel Magic looks, I think, better. So there you have it. Whoops, that's the wrong thing. There you have it. Fully editable golden text in Photoshop with bling and inner shine. If you enjoyed this video, please give me a thumbs up, leave a comment, and subscribe, because I'll be putting up new tutorials every Tuesday. Thank you, and once again, this is Geekman signing off for Pixel Magic Tutorials.